Recording. Oh my god. Hi guys, how are you doing? How is everyone's week so far? Or how was everyone's weekend? Because I'm pretty sure I didn't go live both Saturday and Sunday. Not that I can't remember whether I went live in general, it's just that I don't remember whether it was both days or not. Also, oh my gosh. Come on, Mike. I need you to be a little further up, I think. Like a tiny bit more. Sorry, I'm over here like desperately trying to fix my mic. Hello. Something I should have probably done before this live, but oh well. How is everyone doing? How is everyone's weekend? Hi, Alexander. Hi, John. Hi, Ukrainian World Nation. Hi, Juju. Hi, Ian. Hi, Taz. Hi, Carolyn. Hi, Carlos. We're back. Yeah. Sorry. The other day I like hurt my voice. It's such a stupid story, but I think it was Saturday. I was fully meaning on going live and I was like doing my evening workout and I literally took a sip of water and it went into like a wrong pipe and it really just went downhill from there. I just started like coughing really badly and in the process of coughing really badly, I hurt my throat and it was like rough to speak. And so I was trying to I was just like I can't do this. And then on and then yesterday I had a friend in town, so they were over and I didn't do a live. Hi Mark, hi Karen, Ukrainian World Nation. So I mean the mic has been here for a few lives now. I maybe it looks different from a different angle, but yeah, I mean generally it is it's not old. It's quite new, but it's not its first rodeo. Oh, hi Carrie. Oh my gosh. Hello, good to see you. Hi Parks, Heroyam Slava. Oh, New Zealand. That's so awesome. Um hi Nicole and hi Ed. You're early today. Well, I mean it's midnight in Ukraine, so it's my normal time. Unless you're being sarcastic, which I realized I really can't tell. Taras, привет. I really can't tell when someone's being sarcastic over messages, especially if they're doing it in Ukrainian. I have a friend who's like very sarcastic and he's got really good jokes, but a lot of the times when he says them in person or when he messages them to me, I can tell English sarcasm pretty well, but Ukrainian sarcasm, especially through messages, I'm like, uh, undetected. But yeah, overall, not much has happened this weekend, I suppose. Hi, Salt of the Red Earth. Hi, James. Not much has happened over this weekend. I had quite a few things to do. I went to the Azovstal rally, obviously, as every weekend. This Sunday, the location was a little odd. It was in Obolon, which is quite far from central areas where it usually takes place. And it's good that they're branching out. But it was like near an embankment, and it was like an awkward turn near a formerly Russian Orthodox church. And there was just like I think it was like a weird intersection because most intersections they usually choose are quite large, and so it doesn't necessarily interfere with traffic. So it's kind of like lots of cars are passing through. And this one, I wouldn't say lots of cars were passing through. I would say like people were like avoiding this intersection because it was obviously like interfering with traffic. I mean, you can't always win and you can't always pick the best place. But it was a good rally. Like there were lots and lots of people. The weather wasn't the best, so I think that it had a potential to be a much bigger rally, but because of the weather and because of the location, like kind of felt smaller, I guess, than it usually does. And yeah, it was just I don't know. I preferred all of the previous locations, but also it might be because I live closer to them and I'm just like being bratty. Hi Nick, hi Niels, hi Demon Orb, my favorite handle on YouTube. Hi Prexis, hi Grumpy, and hi Pietro, hi Bjorn. And yeah. So yeah, hi everybody on TikTok. Uh, did I meet Carlin? Yes, I did, for like briefly, but not for long. I did stop by Rick's live. Hi HD. I literally like passed by him, and for the first time, I didn't even try to search for him through his like YouTube. I just saw him because normally when I get to Azovstal rallies, I thought about streaming. I am on YouTube. Um, do you have any close family in Kyiv, or are they mainly in Lviv? No, mainly in Lviv. I mean, my not mainly, like all of my family is in Lviv. Um, but yeah, I did meet Carlin for like a second. I mean not a second, for like a couple of minutes, I suppose. I found Rick, and I stopped by to like sort of say hello and help him translate the signs. Not that he needs help, but just sort of like to be there because he likes to have a co-host. But So my thing is like I get a lot of anxiety when I do what Rick does, and like I have so much respect for him for having like enough confidence to sort of walk in front of people and show their signs. And it's like I mean it's important because you should be showing it, and I'm not trying to say it disparagingly by any means. And I think it's like he's doing a great job. He's doing a fantastic job, but it's sort of like I can't do what he does for more than like short little intervals, because like some people want their signs to be shown. Some people obviously look like annoyed because they don't sort of like want a person to just walk in front of them and like film them and stuff. And the second that I start seeing that people are not like, it could be one person who just like their facial expression is off and they're just like not happy that they're being filmed or something, or they're like annoyed by us standing in front of them or something like that. Hi Nick. Hi Odin. I immediately get into like an anxiety fit, and I'm just like, I kind of get like shy and I don't want to be there. So I get overwhelmed basically. So I could never do what Rick does for as long as he does it. So kudos to him because he does a great job. I could never. I'm like, I like interviewing people. I like talking to people, but I don't like, I feel very awkward filming people that I don't know, or like, or things like, yeah. I just like, it's a me thing. I just don't have like the confidence to sort of do that. And it's not even like, I have the confidence to randomly come up to a person and like, and be like, hey, I've seen you here, here, and there. I would like to interview you. Could I do that? Right. Because that like provides consent. And not that like you need consent of people at the rally because they're there and it's like you need to like you need to show it to the world and stuff. It's just like it's a different sort of like internal feeling of like consent, I guess. Yeah. So I get really like anxious and lost and sort of shy, and like I kind of like get into my shell and stuff like that. So I give Rick lots of props for being able to stand at a rally for 3 hours and like film people and not get like shy or awkward or anything like that, and just sort of like do it the way that he does, because I genuinely could never. And at some point, my my friend Masha from Kyiv Independent, she responded. We usually go to this rally together, so I went to find her, and then I stayed with her and her group, and we ended up, her and I ended up leaving and well together, and then getting lunch. Um, okay, so hi Cheryl. Also hi, I think it was Dawn. Yeah, hi Dawn. Um, hi Martin. Hi Brandy. Hi Leathercat. Yeah, I figured, Carrie. It's so good to see you. Do I teach English? No, I'm not a teacher. I don't think I have the skill to teach English, to be honest. I'm good on vacation in Florida at the beach. Oh, that's super nice. I'm sort of jelly. I would like to be on a beach right now, but maybe next time. Yeah. So okay. Well, oh my gosh, we're gonna start with some news today because that's what we're here for. And before we start with the news, we're going to start with the check in on the fundraiser. So, the fundraiser for a thermal drone for the HUR unit is at $4,093.64. If you would like to contribute to the fundraiser for the thermal Mavic 3, Mavic 3 pro drone, you can do so through the links right over here in the screen on YouTube, or you can do that through my link in bio on TikTok, which is right under my profile picture. And you can also find it in the you can also find it in the comments once one of the mods generously posted there. All of your donations are going to be announced and added up in real time. And if I didn't see something, please nudge me because sometimes notifications glitch, but I always check after the lives or actually before the next live to see that I did add everything up. Uh, Wait, where is the hairy sidekick? Do you mean Arthur who was here like last time? Well, he is in a different city now, and he is very excited for his drone project, and he's very excited whew, to explore restaurants and food in Ivano-Frankivsk, where he's now. So yeah, Arthur is doing good. Hello, it has been a while. Yeah, hi, good to see you. He's alive. Oh, Cinny. Cinny is the hairy sidekick. Oh my god. Well, Arthur has like French hair, so I thought you meant him. Cinny is snoozing on the couch. She's doing well. I already fed her evening dinner and walked her. I think she was outside for four times today. She should be good. She is chilling. She's doing well, I suppose. Cindy is always doing better than all of us, like she's been getting the most extravagant doggy meals ever. Hi Natalia. She is I started like her fur coat got a little like rougher because I switched her to a food that's available in Ukraine. Um Hi, Leon. That's available in Ukraine, which is different from the food that she was eating in New York. And I have to give her like add-ons so her fur coat stays like nice and stuff. And, she gets all her vitamins. So she now basically eats food that involves like, salmon oil and broth and like vitamins and stuff. And so Cindy has been like having it peachy keen better than anyone. Also, we just received a $10 donation from Carrie, which jumpstarts our fundraiser today. And we are at $4,103.64. Um, Oh, hi. Oh my gosh, Kella Hella, hi. And Ukrainian dog food is an actual thing, even in European countries, just saying. Well, I mean, we do have like brands of Ukrainian dog food, and it's not bad. Like, there's a huge variety of different dog foods. It's just like, it's not the same food as she's like used to because it's a different manufacturer. And obviously, like in different countries, different things are available. And the foods that have all the ingredients or all the like vitamins or like whatnot that she needs don't have other things. So I just like sort of settled on the food that works well for her and doesn't cause her any like disruptions, and then added like the things that she needs, like probiotics and stuff like that. But now her meals are super elaborate, and this dog is so spoiled. Like, she used to never bag for food, like ever. And now, because she eats like broth and all of these things, like I'll be sitting on the couch and I'll be eating my cucumbers with hummus, and here she freaking is with her face, literally, because I always put them on like a cutting board, and just like that's kind of like my serving dish. And she she just like sits there and her face is like almost in the cutting board, and I'm like, girl, none of that. Bye-bye. She's a bougie princess. She is a bougie princess. Like, this dog is so freaking spoiled. It's not even funny. Say beg again. No. My niece deserves fancy food, you guys. Oh my gosh. Um you've got a major problem. You have a bird's nest in your AC. I'm so sorry to hear that. I have two what are they called? Oh my gosh. Eagles that live like right outside of this window across the street. And today they were having a fight with some ravens. So yeah, fascinating. Okay. What am I missing? Okay, so hi Elvin. Feed her a stick of butter, she will be very shiny. No, I'm not going to be feeding her sticks of butter, but thank you for the advice though. I will Consider it. Okay, according to Welt am Sonntag, the European Union has reached an agreement on security guarantees for Ukraine, encompassing political, military, and economic assistance. Journalists from the German publication have had their access to the document agreed upon by EU ambassadors. Hi, Mick, and hi, KP. The draft agreement is currently undergoing finalization by the European External Action Service and the Ukrainian government. It is expected to come into effect before July and remain valid until Ukraine's accession to the European Union and NATO. The agreement ensures that Kyiv will receive immediate consultations from the EU in the event of new attacks on Ukraine, provided such consultations are pre approved by both parties. However, direct participation of European soldiers alongside the Ukrainian army in such attacks is indirectly excluded. Brussels also pledges further deliveries of both lethal and non lethal weapons, soldier training, assistance and security force reform, demining efforts, collaboration in countering hybrid threats and cyber attacks, and extensive support for infrastructure restoration in Ukraine. Which that's a great security agreement. However, that's the thing. As a Ukrainian, it's really hard to trust any security agreements or consider them something that will really impact the situation a lot because we've already had security agreements. I think the best security agreement is being allowed into NATO. However, we got to take what we can get at the moment, and this is obviously much better than nothing. And the fact that most countries in the EU and also some countries outside are offering their own, like the UK, their own bilateral security agreements to Ukraine, and also the EU as a whole, it is a big step and it is a big move. Speaking of European countries, for those of you who follow me on Twitter, you might have seen that I posted a hi Joe, I posted a thing recently where I was привет Ukraina, where I was also hi Lynn, and who did I miss? I missed someone, I thought. Hi SSW and hi Semiflex. So yeah, I posted a thing on Twitter that basically shows, well, sorry, it's not first of all, let me get, I can't get comfortable and it's bugging me. But so I posted a thing on Twitter about a Spanish brand of clothing. It's called El Corte Inglés, and it's one of the largest brands of clothing for like youth and children. And they were, at least it seems like they were, they might still be, but it looks like today they finally removed it. So they were selling this. It's a t-shirt for a child with a Ukrainian flag crossed out on it. On their Instagram 2 days ago, when people were calling them out, they blocked the comments and deleted the unfavorable comments. So then I got a DM from this woman who's Ukrainian who lives in Spain, and she was like, hey, can you help spread this? And obviously, yes, because what the fuck? So I made a post on Twitter, and that post spread pretty far. It has 1,000 reposts and 4.2 thousand likes, along with 212,000 views. So a lot of Ukrainians and Spanish people and people in general, like just people everywhere, were like reacting to this and reposting it and quoting it, and because I asked in the end of the post, like, please tag them and blow this post up because this is beyond fucked up. And then someone else with a large following wrote a post that's similar, and then United24 shared their post. And after that, it seems like El Corte Inglés did remove it from their both Spanish and Portuguese website. But before this, when you would email them and ask them to explain what the hell this is, they would be like, oh, it's just a geometric collection. Like, it was just inspired by our values, and it wasn't supposed to like offend anyone. And it was like an automated email. And it's like, okay, so you are sorry that it offended someone, yet you're still selling it, you're not removing it, and you don't see how that is absolutely incredibly inappropriate. Okay. Then today, when people started tagging the El Corte Inglés Portuguese website, they were like, oh, the link isn't working for me. But like that's absolutely atrocious, and they would like tag the Portuguese branch of them on Twitter, and the Portuguese branch would respond to people who tag them, literally being like, oh, if the link is broken and it doesn't work, just contact support. Thank you for your attention, or something like that. So it's an automated response. I don't know who handles their social media, but it's a horrible handling of the situation. And they just quietly removed it, it seems like today. And that's crazy because that's a horrendous way to handle a really bad PR situation, because someone approved this and someone like put it out there. But before I tell you why I think this happened, someone sent me an article today. Well, Yana actually sent me an article, and she was like, "Hey, so speaking of this, of this thing that you posted, here is a something that might be of interest." But before I do that, I wanted to say that we got a donation of $2.20. Thank you very much, and that brings us to $4,105.84. But so Yana sends me a link to this article from 2015 that actually makes so much sense as to why this would have passed through checks, and why a T-shirt with a crossed out Ukrainian flag would be put on the market, and no one would blink an eye. So this is a an article from the Luxonomist.España, right? .es, and um the article states El Corte Inglés booming in Russia. Brum, 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 brum. Of course, that makes so much sense, because basically they have a market in Portugal and in Spain. They're a huge retailer in Spain, and they were booming in Russia starting in 2015. So that makes so much sense. I'm going to do a little more research on it because I haven't yet, but I'm wondering if they exited the Russian market, and something tells me they didn't. So yeah, makes sense how one of their largest markets, huh? So makes sense why they didn't feel like that was a completely horrendous decision. And no, because I was like thinking to myself, right, like someone approved this, like this must be a horrendous misunderstanding, but someone approved this because there is a team of people who are responsible for putting a product out there and approving it. And the fact that out of all of these people, not a single one of them thought like, oh, it's a crossed out flag of a country. Like, let's say it was in Ukraine. That is still incredibly offensive. Like, imagine they put out a T-shirt with like a crossed out flag of France or Italy or like the United Kingdom or something. Like, people would be infuriated. Why are you selling a T-shirt that promotes hate to a certain country? Because there is no other way to spin it than to see this as like, oh, crossed out UK, or crossed out Spain, or crossed out Italy. It's like there is no sort of like vague interpretation of this. This is clearly just not good. So yeah. And not if it's a crossed out flag of Russia, I'd buy it. I mean, like, okay, so the thing is like when when you when it's a country, it's like sort of like if you sold a T-shirt with a crossed out swastika, I mean that would make sense, right? Because it's against hate ideology. A Russian flag right now represents an ideology of hate, but I still like I wouldn't want to wear a Russian flag on me even if it was crossed out. That's like the thing, it just brings attention to Russia, right? And and so like I personally, like I personally think that that shouldn't exist, but at the same time, like it's just like if you're a mainstream brand, you don't sell a T-shirt with a crossed out flag of any country really. But it's like selling it to a mass market, but also it's a children's T-shirt. So you're like, what was the idea behind it? Like teach them to hate young? And also, like, imagine that. Like, there is, like, yeah, sure, there are people who are brainwashed by Russian propaganda. Like, it's definitely, like, in a way, a controversial subject, because obviously there are people who are like, oh, Ukraine sucks, and like whatever. But at the same time, like, it doesn't matter how many people like that there are. You as a brand don't take a hate stance, you know? especially to someone who has been like internationally recognized as a victim. It's just like it was very gross. I want to I want to I want to sort of uh, dive deeper into investigating their ties with Russia and how successful and booming their business there is, because I'm just actually curious to find out for myself, just to sort of understand a little better how that could have happened. But for now, I mean, I didn't have the opportunity to do that, so we shall wait. We also just got 5 coffees from Tim, which amounts to $25. So thank you very much. And that brings us to $4,130.84. For the fundraiser for a thermal drone for an HUR unit. And if you want to donate to it, here are the links on YouTube. And if you want to donate to it on TikTok, thank you, Liv. You can do so through my link in bio. There is Revolut, there is Venmo, and there is PayPal. Okay. So, we rarely do this, but we're gonna start this next subject with the thumbnail, because normally by the time I get to the thumbnail topic, it's like the end of the live, and it's not. And I don't do that on purpose. It's just sort of like usually, it's like down my notes because I organize things based on like I don't know, based on like I go through stories that I don't think are so, anyways, like I just organize them that way. But the Security Service of Ukraine prevented a terrorist attack planned by the Russian GRU on May 9th in Kyiv, according to Artem Degtyarenko, spokesman for the Security Service. The Security Service of Ukraine acted in advance. The perpetrators of the terrorist attack were caught red-handed. A comprehensive evidence base was also collected, indisputably confirming the Russian involvement, stated Degtyarenko in a commentary for RBK Ukraine. The Security Service of Ukraine has promised to release further details regarding the special operation at a later time, because obviously, it's not necessarily super clever to release details of an operation like that right after it had happened, and kind of tell how they came out, and sort of like tell the Russians how they figured out that this was even happening. But that's crazy, like the fact that Russians tried to assassinate Zelensky. Literally last week there was a plot to assassinate Zelensky. This week there was supposed to be a terrorist attack in Kyiv for Russia's Victory Day. Also, I did say this earlier, but I want to draw some attention to this again. While the world on the 8th of May mourns the victims of World War II, Russia celebrates their victory over Nazism because they consider themselves to be the winners of World War II. Like, there are no winners. There are no winners in a massive, large scale war where so many people have died. Like, it's not like, we say victory, but it's like sort of a victory over evil, right? But you don't necessarily win because you like first of all, yeah, Russians collaborated with Nazis and then Nazis dropped them, and if they didn't, Russia would still be collaborating with them. They had a pact of non-aggression and also divided Poland between the two of them, but that's for another time. But the whole point is that like there are no real winners, right? There is like someone who lost their like attempt at feeding their ego and ambition by like invading and conquering, and they lose. But I wouldn't necessarily say there is a winner of a war like that, because because like you lose so many people, and it's not something to celebrate. It's something to mourn. And it's crazy to me that Russians celebrate it, and they also consider themselves like um consider themselves like these, saviors of the world. And it's crazy because the Nazis are celebrating victory over Nazis. It's wild. And I know that it's such a overused phrase, but it is what it is. And it's just crazy to think about each time, no matter what. So yeah. Uh, Russia was the only nation that met all of their goals in World War II. Well, I mean, Russia also was helped tremendously by the West, and if it wasn't for that, they wouldn't be able to. Now they claim to have won the war single-handed. Yeah, they also while I don't want to go into the subject of World War II. I will at some point. I have in many lives before, but I find Russia in World War II to be such a like twisted evil, because not only were they dividing Poland and like trying to conquer the world, they were also looting and assaying and killing and doing all of these horrendous things to the people of Ukraine and Belarus and other places that they were saying were one country, right? Like, we're all one country. The Red Army was our army, right? Yet Ukrainians and Belarusians were thrown to the wolves as cannon fodder, and had to stop the Nazis at the doorstep. And also, when the Red Army came, they just basically they didn't liberate anyone. They didn't do anything good. They were just as bad as the Nazis. Anyways, the enemy is localized in the gray zone in the Kharkiv region. It does not expand. By the decision of the command, our defense units of the armed forces of Ukraine have been strengthened, and it is already being implemented. The enemy is located in the gray zone. It is not expanding. However, it is a question of destroying the enemy to the end and hunting them in those forest plantations where they could hide, said the spokesman of Operational Strategic Group of Troops, Hortitsa Nazar Voloshin. So I have been hearing a lot of sort of like criticism of the border of Ukraine and its fortifications, and how Russians were able to invade some villages in Kharkiv region easy, because this is like, so border cities or border towns between Russia and Kharkiv were not fortified because it'd be nearly impossible to do. They're in a buffer zone. They're way too close to the front line, which is Russia. So Kharkiv itself is fortified. And it's very unlikely that Russia is going to be able to reach Kharkiv. What is more likely is that Russia is using this attack on Kharkiv to distract Ukraine, so we would throw more of our troops from Donbass towards Kharkiv direction, and that way they can actually turn around and do a bigger offensive on Donbass. So it's highly unlikely that their ambition is actually Kharkiv, especially because they've been talking about it so much that it almost seems like everything Russia does is like, everything they say doesn't mean it is not what they actually mean, because they say lies all the time on purpose, and they try to confuse you, and they try to like paint a certain picture when that's not the case. I do think that with how much they were talking about invading Kharkiv and how much they were talking about this offensive, that this really cannot be their plan. And also, like, it's sort of, it would be like it'd be a suicide move, because they like wouldn't cross Kharkiv fortifications. And it's just not wise for them. And also, the criticisms of the border and how it's protected, and the fact that Russia was able to capture villages to begin with, are coming from like ignorance on the subject, because not everybody is obviously understanding or knowledgeable of like military strategy, and of how like fortifications work, and where you can put them and where you can't, and sort of like how this works in general, because obviously it's not like a super civilian friendly subject. I did dive deep into different analysts, and I did look up a lot of information on these fortifications, and basically, in layman's terms, because these villages are so close to the front line, which is at this point the Russian border and Kharkiv region, it's nearly impossible to fortify those. So if Russia were to make an offensive, those villages were going to be lost. So yeah, so it wasn't unexpected. It was something that we were prepared for as a military, I suppose. Due to the use in Ukraine and Israel, there was a shortage of missiles for Patriot systems in the world, the German publication NZZ stated. Journalists note that in addition to the large number of missiles used in Ukraine and the Middle East, the shortage is also felt due to the desire of many countries to accumulate them against the background of increasing tensions in the world. Yeah, understandable. At the same time, the volume of Patriot missile production does not currently meet demand. Also, interestingly, German concern Rheinmetall said that it's working under capacity because it doesn't have enough orders. So Germany can ramp up production both for Ukraine and the world, and they're available. So, and I think they were saying this obviously on purpose for the U.S. to sort of like delegate production of certain things to them, or produce certain things that the U.S. doesn't meet sort of like the deadlines for to Germany. And that would be great because that would help Ukraine tremendously. Germany has a huge capacity for manufacturing defense sector equipment, and it would be really helpful. NZ, NNZ notes that since 1984, when the Patriot complex appeared, missiles for these systems have been consistently improved. At present, two main types of ammunition are produced: the PAC-3 MSE, which is used against medium-range ballistic missiles, and the older PAC-2 GEM-T, which is used mainly against aircraft and cruise missiles. The PAC-3 is produced exclusively by Lockheed Martin in Camden, Arkansas. Arkansas. See, I've been out of the US for a while. In recent years, annual production has increased from 350 to 500 units and is expected to increase to 650 units by 2027. Lockheed has opened another factory for this purpose and is planning further investments. The PAC-2 is also produced in the USA by the defense company Raytheon. The annual volume is 240 units. By 2027, it is expected to increase to 420 units. Production is also being established in Europe. At the same time, the stockpile of Patriot missiles is dwindling, and Ukraine needs them in the ongoing war against the Russian Federation. This could become a problem for the US, according to the authors of the article, who note that increasing production volumes requires time, which Kyiv does not have. Or you could partner up, Lockheed Martin could partner up with Rheinmetall and do that, because I understand monopoly. I understand the need for money. I understand how much these companies love how much money they're making. But this should not be a matter of money and wanting to, make more money or keep the monopoly to yourself. This should be a matter of understanding that this should be a matter of understanding, hi Max, that you just need to do it. One second. Latvia will transfer drones and radar defense systems on its own production to Ukraine. Ukrainian ambassador to the country Anatoly Kutsevol in an interview with Ukrainian media. The U.S. State Department has approved the emergency sale of 3 HIMARS missile launchers to the government of Ukraine for approximately $30 million. Thank you. Finally. Ukraine has requested the purchase of 3 HIMARS missile complexes, which will be financed by the German government. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken noted that there is an emergency situation that requires the urgent sale to Ukraine of the specified systems, which will come from the reserves of the United States Army. Lockheed could afford the investment. US could never let them fail now. They own too much industry. Yeah, exactly. And Lockheed can't afford to branch out, and they can afford to share with Rheinmetall. And it's like, I get it. They want to be the only ones who are producing this type of missiles because monopoly and money. But we are not in this, the world is not in the state in which you can afford to think about yourself and your monopoly and your money. You need to think about short-sightedness versus you can't be short-sighted. You need to look further into the future, because if you are only thinking of yourself now, it's then going to cost everyone. But if you think about everyone, then at the end you are going to win, as in you are going to get more return on your investment, and you're going to come out better. Great Britain provides Ukraine with the largest military aid package in history, the Ministry of Defense. The package will include £500 million, about $626 million for military needs, as well as 4 million ammunition, more than 1,600 missiles, 400 vehicles, including Husky armored vehicles. Thank you, UK. That's amazing. Uh, that's actually amazing. I'm also like, so there were lots of stories about Eurovision while Ukraine took the third place in Eurovision, which is awesome because apparently, when you get placed as the second to come out on the stage during Eurovision finals, you usually get like a spot in top 30, not top 5, not even top 3. So it's like it's called the cursed spot. But I also like I don't care enough for Eurovision. So I don't want to like talk too much about it. Congrats to Switzerland for winning. I um I I'm just not that into Eurovision. So I'm just going to go ahead and skip all that Eurovision stories. I mean, like, I really did like, the performance that Jerry Hale and Alona delivered. I think it was beautiful, and the staging and the dresses, and the choreography and the special effects and everything was great. And I don't, like, I do think that they did a fantastic job, and obviously, if it were up to me, they would win. But I'm just not like a big Eurovision fan, so I don't necessarily want to like. I don't want to, spend a lot of time talking about it. So that's as much as we were going to go into it. According to Yonhap, North Korea plans to supply Russia with its latest 240 mm multiple launch rocket system for use in the conflict against Ukraine. The report indicates that Pyongyang is accelerating the development of ammunition for these systems, anticipating their deployment in actual combat in Ukraine before potentially targeting South Korea. I mean, yes, this is not great, but also we do fully understand that everything that gets manufactured in North Korea is usually of subpar quality, and we have witnessed that a lot of their munitions and shells just they don't fire, they explode midair. So I wouldn't necessarily I don't see North Korea, first of all, being able to produce the volumes and quantities that Russia would need. Second of all, again, the quality of their production is pretty subpar. So I mean, while it's an annoying issue, and it's certainly not something to be fully dismissed, it's also not like nearly as big or as awful of a situation as it's being portrayed to be. So again, obviously I would rather North Korea not do that, but also I think anytime anything has to do anything has to do with North Korea, uh it's being framed in the media as in like this big scary situation because it's a dictatorship and a nuclear dictatorship and all this stuff. But North Korea in reality is in a much more fragile and outdated state than Russia is. So it's not necessarily, it's not the scale of danger and evil and a problem that it's being represented as is not quite correct, I suppose. A big thing though is, so do you remember what's been happening in Georgia? There is a law on foreign agents. I have a video about it. If you haven't watched it, you can find it in my briefs. It's in the section titled "The Briefs," and it's quite. I mean, it's. I released it last year, I believe, but it still stands, and it's a video that explains the foreign agents law in Georgia. And the Georgians were protesting about a year ago against this law, and they were able to kind of curb it. But then the government of Georgia did not allow opposition to vote, and they passed the law in under 1 minute. And so there have been huge protests erupting in Georgia. And when Russians say that they can't do anything and they can't protest because they get arrested and all this stuff, I want you to look at Georgia, and I want you to look at what Georgian people do. their police and their government is increasingly using more and more inhumane tactics. And instead of running away and not showing up anymore because they're scared, they actually show up in larger numbers and they continue pushing. And that's what we did in Ukraine as well. And that's kind of how you fight against a dictatorship. Like the more harm they cause, the more people show up for each other. Not like, oh my gosh, no, they hurt me, so I'll never, everyone is scared and they stay at home. So in Tbilisi, since the beginning of the protests, the most numerous action for to repeal the law on foreign agents was held. More than 100,000 protesters took to the streets of the Georgian capital. According to drone footage, between 169,000 and 200,000 people attended the rally on Europe Square in Tbilisi and nearby streets. And that's what an aerial view of that looked like. Yeah, that was what Georgians are doing. What Georgians are doing is exactly a great example to follow for all the countries that are, that are saying that they can't do anything against their government, because the power is in numbers. Yulia, did I see somewhere that the Georgian president is against the law being passed? Yes, she is, but the government and the president. So the president is pro European, and the government is pro Russian. So she doesn't necessarily have a lot of say, and they've tried to impeach her, as far as I understand, quite a few times, or sort of like remove her from her responsibilities. So she alone can't really do a lot. You can move the European out of Europe, but you can't take Europe out of the people. Yeah, really. That's true. Wait, someone. Oh, thank you so much, Stephanie. Also, gentle reminder that the fundraiser is at $4,130.84. And if you would like to contribute to the fundraiser for a thermal drone for an HUR unit, you can do so right here in the link in the links on YouTube. Or if you're on TikTok, you can do it through my link in bio, which is right under my profile picture. There is Revolut, Venmo, and PayPal. And I'm sure Grumpy or Cat will post the links in the chat on TikTok as well. Thank you in advance, you guys. And to this point of Russians that they can't do anything in Russia, right? I want to say that I was speaking yesterday to someone who's half Russian, and they were living in Moscow when the full-scale invasion broke out, and they actually, them and their mom, crossed the border into Ukraine, and they started doing evac of people from frontline territories, from hotspots, and then they became a combat medic. And their mother is a photojournalist who goes to hotspots and documents what's happening there, right, and takes interviews from people. Also, thank you, Dave, for a $5 donation, which brings us to $4,135.84. And from our conversation, it was very evident that this person basically believes that if you're Russian and you feel like you can't do anything in Russia, you can move to Ukraine and do a lot here instead. So all of these things are excuses, and basically, whether you're a Russian in Russia or a Russian who moved out of Russia and went abroad and you're not doing anything to make the situation significantly better, screw you. So yeah, there's that. In the meanwhile, Polish Prime Minister Tusk announced the commencement of construction of fortifications along the border with Belarus, which is something that has been a long time in the making. And makes sense. It should be done just in case. A lot of the time, good night, QR. A lot of the time that, European countries and NATO countries are talking about preventing the war and sort of getting ready for a war with Russia, they don't actually mean that the war is imminent and is going to happen. It's not fear mongering. It's not war mongering. It's sort of like, it's better to be prepared than not, because it is a possibility. as you can see how Russia is, and that Russia isn't going to stop. And when people say, like, oh, but Russia can't even win in Ukraine, how are they going to invade Europe? Well, that's if you let Ukraine lose, one. And two, Russia has already invaded Europe. Russia does not need tanks and missiles to invade Europe. The way that they do it is by invading your political systems, by placing candidates that work for them, by sponsoring campaigns of candidates that are pro-Russian, by utilizing their connections in those countries to screw with your government and your rights. Russia is one of the actually probably is the best propaganda machine on the planet, because they don't only do it well internally, they do it very well around the world. And the Cold War never stopped. It's sort of the picture of the Cold War changed, and Russia fooled you into thinking that they're a friendly country. Vovchansk, located in the north where fighting is ongoing, is experiencing intensified shelling, resulting in fires in the surrounding forests and houses. Despite the continuous aerial bombardment and artillery fire, firefighters are tirelessly working in the Vovchansk community. Volunteers are assisting in evacuating people, while journalists and photographers have captured the city's situation this afternoon. Here are some of the pictures from Vovchansk that are truly horrifying and really heartbreaking. So this is what's going on in the area, and of course, thanks to Russia. In Germany, NATO countries are being proposed to assist in shooting down drones over Ukraine to alleviate the burden on Ukrainian air defense, reports the German publication FAZ. Experts from the Munich Security Conference, including Nico Lange and former Assistant NATO Secretary General Horst Heinrich uh, Braus, suggested that deploying air defense systems in Poland and Romania could create a secure zone of up to 70 kilometers wide. Someone says, do you feel safe where you are? I mean, I feel safer than a lot of people in Ukraine, but you're never safe in Ukraine. And I've said this many, many times, but I think a lot of what people fail to realize is even when air defense does its job perfectly well, when you take down a missile or a drone, the debris um, of that drone and missile, so parts of those things, still fall somewhere. And a lot of the times they fall on buildings, causing a lot of destruction, because these parts are huge and they're usually metal. And they also explode on landing. They just don't explode with the same magnitude and force as a missile if it actually were to hit its target. So, for instance, instead of ruining a whole neighborhood or a whole street, it's going to ruin a couple of houses on that street. And it causes fires because, electricity and like stuff like that. And so it causes, there are lots of victims. Even when air defense intercepted all the missiles and all the drones, they were intercepted. It's not like they were wiped out of existence. They fell. Several German political parties, including the ruling Free Democratic Party and Alliance 90, the Greens, support this proposition. They argue that the involvement of neighboring countries' air defense systems would aid Ukraine without directly engaging NATO countries in the conflict. Yes, that's something that we have been saying this entire time. Create a no-fly zone over Ukraine, or at least over the places that are close to the border. It's completely justified, because if there is a missile heading towards Romania or Poland, you're completely justified to intercept it before it ever reaches your border. And that way you're helping us out, because you are, you're ensuring that we're not getting hurt. And you're also helping yourself out, ensuring that it's not going to accidentally land across your border if we are unable to take it down. Oh, thank you, Richard. That's so sweet. I'm so happy you got your candle. Drones and missiles cause a lot of damage whether they hit their targets or are shut down. The shrapnel doesn't just evaporate into thin air. Exactly. And I think that that's something that a lot of people just miss because, like, it's not something like people think about immediately. And I understand that because you wouldn't unless you've been through it. Roderich Kiesewetter, a member of the opposition Christian Democratic Union (CDU) party, emphasizes that such support would relieve pressure on Ukrainian air defense, allowing it to focus on protecting the front lines. Exactly. He also points out that providing assistance does not automatically make states parties to the conflict, citing Israel as an example. Exactly, and like both Poland and Romania would have the ability to intercept those missiles. Canada will be there, stated Prime Minister Justin Trudeau regarding the country's participation in the Global Peace Summit in Switzerland. Oh, Brian, thank you so much. We just got a $10 donation for the fundraiser for a thermal Mavic 3 DJI drone for an HUR unit, and that brings us to $4,145.84. According to The Spectator, the military economy of the Russian Federation, engineered by Putin, remains under sanctions, and its collapse may be imminent, contingent upon actions taken by the West. Its collapse could have been imminent a long time ago if, European countries and American countries, hi, Chad, and everyone in between, forced, their companies to exit the Russian market and did that before Russia was able to privatize all of that, all of those like warehouses and all of their places of business that they owned, and before Russia turned them into war factories. And before, these places were paying millions and billions in taxes because they were stuck in contracts that they could not exit out of, and before they were stuck with not being able to, before they were stuck with having to sell these businesses because they can't endure the loss. And so these places continued operating until, like, some of them are still there today because they still can't complete their exits from the market because that would be too much on their, like, that's not like a loss that they can uptake. And also a lot of sanctions and loopholes to sanctions and sanctioning certain goods that took like a very long time for the West to do. Like, all of that could have collapsed Russia's economy a long time ago, but we just enabled it instead. The article highlights China's growing dominance as Russia's primary trade partner and technology supplier since 2022. Hi, former Mormon. Potentially surpassing the EU, increased military spending has simulated overall economic growth within Russia. Direct military expenditures as a percentage of GDP surged from 2.7% in 2021 to 6% in 2024. However, this growth is fueled by government spending and military production, which drives consumer spending and tax revenues. Yet, the funding primarily stems from the export of oil and raw materials. Exactly. What Russia does is Russia sells to China and sells to India. Also, diamonds. Diamonds is a very huge industry for Russia as well. Our future and our security are at stake in Ukraine. That is why I said that we should provide more help to Kyiv, which we will do in the coming weeks. French President Emmanuel Macron. The president of France, asserting the current security threats, emphasized that sending French troops to Ukraine should not be ruled out. Again. Although he sincerely hopes that it will not be necessary. I hope that France will not have to fight. France is a peaceful country, not a military one. But of course, if you want peace, you have to defend it. That's why we have to arm ourselves, sometimes to exert a deterrent influence on our opponents. Macron said in a video answering questions from internet users. The French president added that those who pose a threat must understand that there will be a decent response. We must say to our rivals, if you go too far, if you threaten our interests, our security, then I do not rule out sending the military, the French president said. The French president added that the future and security of Europe is now under threat and the fight for it continues in Ukraine. I mean, here's the thing. I do think that if France actually feels a threat or feels like Ukraine is going to collapse, Ukrainian defense is going to collapse, they're going to do something. It does seem like Macron at this point really doesn't have any. He's unhinged, so that's great. I mean, like Macron is all wind, yeah, but the fact that like this conversation is starting and like countries in Europe are starting to like see the possibility of this, and it's not a hard no anymore, and people are not like, leaders are not yelling at each other and are not like sort of like, oh, this could never happen, this would not be a thing, this could never, like we could never do this because this would be an escalation, blah blah blah. Like they're not doing this anymore, right? They're not saying that to Macron either. So that's good news in general. But the thing is, like, we don't necessarily need Western troops here. We need weapons, right? So to defend ourselves. But then here is a thing that I do think would be helpful is, when Ukrainians leave for the UK or for France to study, sort of for like training purposes, it would be much more efficient if Western troops would be here training Ukrainian troops instead of Ukrainian troops having to go to the West to get that training. Also, I'm going to show you a video from United 24, and we're going to watch it together.
On the front line and in the rear.
A good nurse always sees and knows what a doctor needs. Our boys are here. They need my help. I know where I am and what I am doing.
Working day and night, saving people.
In this car, we drove for food, for water. We used it to evacuate injured people and to take pregnant women from basements to hospitals.
Helping patients recover, motivating them to fight trauma and disease.
Nurses give you medical help. They often serve as a psychologist, an assistant, and someone who can listen to people. We must support soldiers every day because they protect us.
Caring and compassionate.
The motivation is to evacuate them, to save them. You made an effort and the person stayed alive.
Brave and selfless.
They used grads to hit us directly. At that moment, I wasn't thinking about anything. The only thing on my mind was, will I stay alive? There was a huge bombardment. Houses were burning. Everything was destroyed. And our maternity hospital was completely isolated.
Often risking their own lives.
We were operating on a civilian woman, and the bomb hit the building. Everything fell on us, glass and concrete.
The nurses. The world is grateful for your work.
Yeah, the nurses, the medics, the combat medics, they're all, they're very, very important. In fact, the person I met yesterday that I was saying is half Russian, they're a combat medic, and they've been doing a fantastic job in Ukraine, and they're recovering from an injury currently, so they're off duty. But, I mean, people like nurses and like combat medics, they're not getting enough recognition, and we owe them as much as we owe our soldiers, because they are the people who keep our soldiers alive, and our soldiers keep us alive. Fighting persists in the border areas of the Kharkiv region. Despite the challenging circumstances, the Ukrainian military is steadfastly committed to maintaining defensive lines and positions, stated Commander-in-Chief of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, Oleksandr Syrsky. People are leaving Vovchansk in large numbers. There are lots of evacuations actually done from Vovchansk due to the fear of a potential new occupation, reports the mass media. In Vovchansk, residents have previously experienced Russian occupation, and they're unwilling to endure it again. They're attempting to evacuate not only due to shelling, but also out of apprehension of another occupation, emphasized correspondents from Radio Svoboda. They further noted that the city is continuously shelled by Russian troops. During the evacuation, an FPV drone crashed near the rescuers and journalists. Actually, I'm going to try and show you, if I can log in the moment. I'm going to show you a video from Francis. He's a journalist with the Kyiv Independent, and he's fantastic. I'm going to show you his profile, and you should follow him if you're on Instagram. I think he's also on Twitter. He is an Australian who lives in Ukraine and who considers Ukraine home and never wants to leave Ukraine. And he has been, first of all, he speaks fluent Ukrainian, which is wild. Second of all, he is just fantastic, and he does a lot of frontline reporting, and he risks his own life, which is also another thing. I think that that a lot of work of frontline journalists, the actually good ones, because a lot of the journalists kind of like look for stories and, to write a book and for their own benefit, but a lot of them are also fantastic, and I don't think that they're being talked about enough, or they're being, they're getting enough appreciation as well. We're kind of like glossing over them putting themselves in danger to do what they do. So 1 second. It's probably, so this is Francis. He posts a lot of really great material, and he is currently in Vovchansk, and I think the Kyiv Independent just posted a video from Vovchansk recently, because I just saw it. Ongoing protests in Georgia. These are pictures. Are these? No. I just saw it today. I don't understand where it went. Okay, pushes Vovchansk on the brink of annihilation. And that video should be somewhere here. I'm so confused. I think this is it. Yeah, Vovchansk. These are the reports from 9 hours ago. Yeah, these are from Francis and from Olenka, who is also a journalist with the Kyiv Independent. I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on with here. Yeah, you can watch the full video on YouTube. But this is basically the reporting that that Francis has been doing, and I really do highly recommend you follow him and his reporting, because it's really, really good. And what people like him are doing is quite brave, because they are putting themselves in harm's way to show us what's happening and to show us what's going on in those areas, so we can get like an inside look. Up to 500 residents remain in Vovchansk. The city is under constant fire. There are dead and wounded. In 2 days, more than 4,000 people were evacuated from dangerous areas of Kharkiv region. The main Directorate of Intelligence assures that it was aware of the schedule of the Russian offensive in the north of the Kharkiv region. It can be said that the enemy's actions in this direction began according to the known schedule, about which the main intelligence directorate had informed all necessary authorities, leadership, and command. Andriy Yusov, spokesman for the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. Yusov added that special units of the main intelligence directorate are engaged in the battle alongside the defense forces in the Kharkiv direction. He also noted that the enemy has suffered significant losses in the area and called on the occupiers to surrender, according to Yusov. The occupiers have attracted troops from the Moscow and Leningrad military districts in the direction of Kharkiv. The representative of the main intelligence directorate also announced that a decision has been made to establish an additional camp for Russian prisoners of war in Ukraine as soon as possible, because there are so many of them. A lot of Russians are surrendering. Fierce battles persist as the occupiers attempt to establish a stronghold, commented President Zelensky on the situation in the Kharkiv region. There are villages that have transitioned from a gray zone to active conflict zones, where the occupier seeks to consolidate its position to further advancement. The outskirts of the city of Vovchansk are particularly challenging, enduring constant Russian fire while our military continues counterattacks within the city, providing assistance to local residents, the president stated. Zelensky highlighted that the situation in the Pokrovsky direction remains particularly intense. In the past day alone, there have been 30 combat clashes in this area. The Limansky, Vremivsky, Kramatorski, and Kupiansky directions also face significant challenges. And Putin has decided to replace the defense minister and is proposing Andrei Belousov as the new minister of defense, replacing Sergei Shoigu. This is something that I will go in depth about tomorrow because it is sort of tail end of the live and I want to give it a little more attention, sort of walk you through what I think is happening and why this is happening. One of the things that I will tell you is that, like, in Russia, nothing is done because someone is competent. It's done because someone is trusted more or closer to the dictator or to the like ruling clan class of Russia. So and Shoigu is also incompetent, but no one else who can come to power is either. So it's really not that big of a change. It's just a change within the circle of trusted people and people close to the establishment. Do you think Ukraine will ever take back Crimea or cities like Donetsk and Luhansk? Yes, I do think so. I mean, I do know a vague plan on how it's supposed to happen, but the thing is, it all depends on Western support and it all depends on equipment and stuff like that. But I will tell you that we will not back down. With that said, it's 1:22 a.m. and it is time for me to go to bed. I don't know how Rick stays up so late. Well, I do know, but also, like, if I do, my schedule just goes out of hand, and I can no longer function or wake up at a normal time. I did take a nap today for like I did take a nap today for like 2 hours specifically, so I could be able to do stream late because I've been going to bed at a decent time recently. But I will definitely see you tomorrow. I'm not planning on not doing a live unless I hurt my throat again by just coughing. But I should be fine, and I'll see you tomorrow. And tomorrow we'll talk about the changes in the defense minister. And we will also talk about a lot more about Kharkiv and what's been going on there, sort of like the American commentary on it from the government. And there are quite a few updates. There are quite a few updates on the Ukrainian Air Force. There are quite a few things that we need to discuss, and I wish that it wasn't so late so we could talk about it today, but we'll talk about it tomorrow. And if you still haven't donated to the fundraiser but would like to do so, please consider donating, and any amount helps, to the fundraiser for the thermal drone for an HUR unit. And you can do so through Buy Me a Coffee, through Revolut, through Venmo, and through PayPal. And here are the links. I will leave them with you on the screen. And if you're on TikTok, then you can find them in my link in bio right under my profile picture. Where the heck are those links? Grumpy. Oh, here. Thank you, Ozzy. So these are the links. Please do consider donating. And we are leaving the live today with $4,145.84, which is sweet. Alrighty. Oh, thank you, Alice. I will see you guys tomorrow. And oh, hi, Kay. And I will see you tomorrow.